Welcome to That's Inclusive, where we talk about disability and what it means to live a full life engaging in our communities. What does that look like, and how can we work together to make our world a more inclusive place?
Hi, everybody. This is Isadora Rodriguez Legendre, Executive Director at the New Hampshire Council on Developmental Disabilities. Welcome to our show, That's Inclusive. Today we have Sara Valli from Assistive Technology in New Hampshire, and she is going to tell us a little bit about what they do. Hi, Sara.
Hi.
So it's really nice to have you on the podcast. You'll want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be the director.
All right. Well, I've been a speech and language pathologist since 1999, working primarily in public schools, and I paused for a little bit and was the director of assistive technology at a college in California, at the Santa Rosa Junior College, where we did a lot of great work turning in-person classes into fully accessible online classes.
Oh.
And that was about 15 years ago. We were working on that there, as well as providing direct assistive technology training and support to adults who were taking college classes. So I've always worked with assistive technology. I was blessed by my very first workplace, which was in Amherst, Massachusetts, a place that was at the time called the Hampshire Educational Collaborative. Mm-hmm. That is still a leader in assistive technology. So from the minute I finished college, I was really immersed in how assistive technology can help people with all different disabilities as part of my work world.
That is amazing. I have so many questions about kind of what changes have been over the amount of time that you've been doing this work, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later in the show and really just ask you, like, what is ATinNH? What do they do?
So Assistive Technology in New Hampshire, which is housed at the Institute of Disability at UNH in Durham, is one of the state AT Act programs. So every state and territory has an AT Act program. And we are mandated by our grant, which is a federal grant, to provide state level and leadership activities. So those state level activities are things like making sure that people have access and get to learn about assistive technology through providing demonstrations and loans of assistive technology. And the intent of those loans is so that people can try out different types of assistive technology to meet a need that they may have before they decide to purchase it, so that they're not wasting their funds or buying something that doesn't fit their needs because they saw an ad for it or someone said, oh, this worked for me. We also provide reuse or refurbish and reuse equipment. So, for example, some of our the senior centers in the state are partners of ours, and they may have used wheelchairs or commodes or walkers that they've fixed up, and then they will loan or give to people who need them. And then we have a partnership with GSIL's refurbished equipment marketplace.
So Granite State Independent Living.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Yep.
And so they will take in donations of used pieces of assistive technology equipment, power wheelchairs, other things, get them refurbished and ready to use, and then resell them at a very significant discount. Usually it's about 25% of what it would have cost new.
Yeah.
And so
we're actually super familiar with Refurbished Equipment Marketplace, or REM, because we did a grant a few years ago when they were kind of transitioning to Granite State Independent Living from another organization, and really helped reduce the costs even further for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we definitely appreciate their work and everything they do to kind of provide needed resources, especially to a community that doesn't always have access through Medicaid funding or other groups and organizations, or time to wait for authorizations and things like that. So it sounds like a real benefit to the community to be able to kind of try things out and also have them temporarily while they wait for their own maybe.
Yeah. And so, for example, our loan program, we have a number of iPads that people can borrow that have all different AAC apps or alternative augmentative communication apps. And so you can borrow those for up to 45 days to trial different devices or different types of alternative communication and choose the one that works best for you.
Wow.
So that could be used in a school setting or a nursing home setting or a work setting. And so we have things like that. We also have partners with places like Northeast Passage, who has a huge amount of recreational equipment, right? Because that's really important too.
Yeah. We love kind of supporting inclusive and integrated outdoor recreation projects. So we're familiar with Northeast Passage's work too. But I didn't realize that they also kind of work in tandem to provide, support to people who need assistive technology in some way. But it makes sense since a lot of the adaptive sporting equipment, right, is based on a person's individualized needs.
Yeah. So I think that what's really important for everybody to know is that sometimes we can have a preconceived notion of what assistive technology is, right? And so assistive technology is anything. It could be something that you purchase that as it is off the shelf, or you adapt, or is created specifically for you that helps you be able to do pretty much any task with less effort. So my passion, and people who know me will know that this is so true. I really am a person who chases joy, and I feel like one of my big passions around assistive technology is it can be used to make all of the day-to-day things we have to do easier to do and take less effort and energy and use less of our precious energy, especially when we have a disability and things can be exhausting, so that we have enough energy to do life, to do the joyful things, to have community involvement, to go fishing. And we have adapted fishing equipment too, So to be able to use the different tools, whether it's an adapted can opener or a tool that helps you button your shirt so that it is not effortful to do those activities of daily living or learning, right? So there's a lot of assistive technology in schools as well around reading and writing and all of the different.
Yeah. I mean, and that was kind of one of my initial questions when I first, approached you, is like, I don't even know the full range of what's included under the umbrella of assistive technology, because I know that we have council members that, use a wheelchair or have communication devices, or, there are people who, like you said, maybe don't have the full use of their hands, or maybe they have low vision. And so there's just so many different ways, right, that someone could need a little bit of help to make their lives easier.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes we don't necessarily think about assistive technology when we think about aging into disability or aging, so all kinds of different tools can be considered assistive technology. So many of us have thought about and used the grips to open a jar. Well, there's also battery operated jar openers that you put on and press a button and it will open a jar with even less need for hand use. So those kinds of things, but then also technology types of things. So screen readers or dictation software, or, we often carry around phones that have built-in assistive technology that anyone can use. But if you need it to be able to complete the action that you want to complete, then it would count as assistive technology.
Yeah. And I think that people aren't even really aware of all of the things now that are available through smartphones that people can use if they need some sort of support for a disability. But like, if you know, you know. So like one of the things that I think we were doing during the pandemic is like little demonstrations of like, what can your phone do?
Mm-hmm.
And it was so eye-opening about like kind of how much progress has been made over, relatively short amount of time as far as assistive technology that's like digital or some sort of on your phone.
So at the beginning of this, you said, I'm so curious about that progression, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking with a friend who's also an assistive technology specialist the other day about Dragon naturally speaking, or used to be called Dragon speaking. And when it first came out, it was, you had to speak each word and pause and wait.
Yeah.
And it was so much effort for people who had difficulty typing or spelling and so it was like you really had to want to use that to get your thoughts out on paper. And now you can talk to your phone and it will send a text and you can speak pretty fast and it will work really well. And there's new assistive technology that is really specifically made to understand voices of people who have articulation disorders or maybe have had a stroke. And they will record that person talking for a while and figure out their speech patterns, so it will type what they're saying, even if it's difficult to understand. That's a huge
that's progress
difference.
For sure.
Yeah.
I remember probably it was more than 10 years ago now. I've kind of always worked around people with disabilities, and those programs were so like I tried to use dictation software way back when, and it was so cumbersome and so slow. And I was like, you know what? It's faster if I just type it. And it's definitely different now, right?
Yeah.
Like I do talk to text messages and things like that. And it's got to be so much better for people who, want to be in the workforce, but who need some sort of support. Now the technology is so much better; it allows them to kind of
And I think one of the big things around assistive technology in the workforce is, assistive technology is considered a reasonable accommodation that an employer should provide for them, needs to provide for them. And my favorite resource for that, for people who may need that, is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Job Accommodation Network, but they have a fantastic website. It's askjon.com, JAN, and they have some really fantastic examples of letters that you can use to ask an employer for reasonable accommodations.
We'll definitely put that in the show notes.
It's one of my favorite resources. When I was working as a speech pathologist in high schools, one of the things that I would often have our students do is to complete a self-advocacy letter that outlined strengths, needs, and accommodations they need. And they would do that in between grades so that they could give it to their next year's teachers, but also as they're graduating, right?
Yeah.
Because once you graduate and you are an adult, often you have to advocate for yourself. Yeah. And so if you have that letter, it's a really nice way to be able to do that in writing, because sometimes people struggle to verbally advocate for themselves, right?
It's true.
Which brings me to one other thing that I find fascinating that I really wanted to share. So I was recently at a conference, and Apple has released a new sort of an AI feature where you can record your own voice and then it will make an AI voice that's your voice. So you record a certain number of phrases, and then it can use your voice to read out loud text, which initially sounds creepy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say it sounds a little
It does,
strange.
unless you think about it as assistive technology.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are a person and who is diagnosed with ALS, and
Yep.
you know
Oh, yeah.
that you may eventually lose your ability to produce verbal
Oh,
speech,
Sure.
then it's not there just yet, but I foresee that you would be able to use a communication device and have it speak in your own
your
voice,
voice.
because
That's
it has
pretty
learned
cool.
your voice. I also feel like it's really important to think about when we think about some of our neurodivergent
Yep.
folks. There's a lot of people who are sometimes nonverbal,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so they have verbal speech, so they may not qualify for an AAC device. They may not qualify, those
Sure.
kinds of things. But if they could use typing and have their own voice speak their
Yeah.
typing, that is a really pretty neat piece of assistive
Yeah,
technology.
that's pretty empowering
Yeah.
to be able to communicate even when you don't have the power to use your own voice
Yeah.
and in your own voice. That's very powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of a commercially available technology that in that instance is used as assistive technology.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely come a long way since the early days of Dragon and those things.
Yeah.
Is there how would someone who thinks that they might benefit from assistive technology get in touch with ATinNH?
So we have a website. We're part of
Okay.
the IOD. We also have ATinNH.at for the number for all.com. And that's where our lending library is. So
Okay.
we have a searchable database of assistive technology that people can borrow for 45 days
Yeah.
at no cost. There are some things that, for example, Northeast Passage has that there is a small fee because they need to do upkeep and things,
Okay.
right? So adapted bikes need to be serviced,
Sure.
and so that is there. But people can definitely do that. They can email us on our website is all of our contact information.
Okay.
But Jen Daniels is my program coordinator, and she is fantastic at responding to emails. And if she's not sure, she'll send it to me, and we'll connect people with the right partner. So, for
That's great.
example, if you've got a vision disability and you message and say, I'm not really sure, we might connect you with someone at Future Insight, who's one of our partners, because they're the expert
Right.
in assistive technology for vision, or
Right.
Northeast Deaf and Hard of Hearing, or, one of our partners. If we don't have the answer, we probably have a partner who does
Yeah.
and also has some equipment that you can try out.
That's awesome. That's great. So people would just reach out and be able to learn more about how to access some of this equipment and how to kind of try some things out to see what works best for them. What happens after 45 days if someone thinks that they might need it for longer?
So that's a great question. So then if they have a case manager or something, they may be able to help them navigate the process of getting insurance to purchase some things.
Okay.
Other things they would need to purchase on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I am in the process, and hopefully it will be set in place by June,
Yeah.
of working on a bulk purchasing program whereby different organizations within the state could purchase things through us at a discounted rate.
Oh, nice.
So we're working on the logistics of that. There's a few other states who do that, and I'm in conversation with them around that. And so there's a variety of different ways. Sometimes if someone is really struggling with funding,
Yeah.
there's ways that a Lions Club or an Elks Club or something like that
sure.
could help with some funding.
Yeah.
If someone's in a school, that school
Sure.
would fund it. If someone's working with vocational rehab,
Yeah.
They often will purchase assistive technology for people who need it for work.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage you to add the DD Council onto that list. We
Yeah.
have a small grant. It's not a lot of money. It's about $250 maximum for supporting people who need assistive technology and are either unable to get it or are waiting for an assessment or something. But it sounds like this also would align well with some people who might just need a little bit of assistance to get what they need to make their lives easier, especially if they've tried it out and know it works for them, but they have limited resources.
Yeah.
If they have an intellectual or developmental disabilities, they should definitely reach out to the DD Council and see if they're eligible for one of our grants.
Yeah, I do want to add that I recently got to play with a really cool free widget that will work on Macs or PCs, and it's called Morphic, and
Okay.
it's free. And what it does is it pulls all the accessibility features to the front so that
Oh.
people don't have to search for them.
Okay.
And you can also create some buttons for very specific tasks that you need to do.
Oh, so on a computer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a pretty neat program
yeah.
that's worth people checking out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for that little bit of information. So as we start to wrap up here, what do you think are the major takeaways that you would want people to have about ATinNH after this conversation?
So I think that I want people to engage and not be afraid to reach out and try
Yeah.
or ask, if there's something that someone who's got a disability or who cares for or loves a person with a disability,
Mm-hmm.
that they feel like that person really wants to do, but there's some reason that they're stuck or they can't do it. If there's a physical reason or some kind of an access reason, there's very often some piece of assistive technology, some tool that can help make that easier,
Yeah.
whether it's customized or off the shelf. And so if there's something that you want to do that you feel like you're limited in, then reach out and ask us.
Yeah.
And we can try to help connect you with how to make that easier. And I think that reaching out and asking
Yeah.
creates not only, potentially an answer that we can say, yeah, we have this really cool tool that is going to make that so much easier. But if we don't, I have the ability to connect with all of the other AT programs in the country and ask them, hey, I have a person in my state who wants to be able to do this, and this is the challenge with it. Anybody have a resource? And they will respond, and we can connect people.
Yeah, that's really cool. And partnerships are so important to the work that we do. It sounds like it's also a big part of what you do is collaborating with other groups, organizations, and entities that really have, like-minded vision and mission of making community and life more accessible and accommodating. So I want to thank you for the work that you do. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks. And really honestly, feel free to reach out, ATinNH. We are around.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Vanessa Blaze, and this was a production of the New Hampshire Council on Developmental Disabilities. Produced by Isadora Rodriguez-Legendre and Vanessa Blaze. With many thanks to Josh Hardy and the rest of the crew here at Concord TV. We love to have guests with differing perspectives. These views are personal and do not necessarily represent those of the DD Council.